In the previous episode, we left off with Liu Bei abandoning Yuan Shao while the war between Shao and Cao Cao was escalating. Now, Yuan Shao had to work hard to find new allies in the south. Liu Biao refused, but Sun Ce was on board. Si thought Cao Cao was playing dirty by not promoting him, so he wanted revenge. However, before he could mobilize his forces, a Chinese sorcerer, Wu Qi, appeared. Sun Ce considered him to be a practitioner of dark arts and ordered his execution. But Wu Qi kept resurrecting, which stressed Sun Ce out so much that he died first. After Sun Ce's death, his younger brother Sun Quan took over. Quan advocated for a peaceful relationship with Cao Cao and disregarded Yuan Shao, aiming to give the Sun family more time to build their own empire. Eventually, the biggest battle between Cao Cao and Yuan Shao at Guandu arrived. Shao had an enormous army, about the size of the combined populations of 4 districts of Hanoi, 700,000 soldiers. Cao Cao's army, however, was just a tenth of Shao's. Before the fight began, the two sides engaged in a war of words, as was customary. Shao used an imperial edict to accuse Cao Cao of being a rebel, to which Cao Cao retorted, calling Shao the true rebel. After a bit of verbal sparring with no resolution, they decided to fight. Cao Cao was ambushed by archers as soon as he entered the battlefield and had to retreat. He then switched to a defensive counter-offensive strategy, creating a stone-throwing machine to counter the archers and digging trenches around his camp to defend against special forces. But even with these measures, his troops were running out of food, and Yuan Shao's forces weren't doing any better, as the main problem was their leader. Despite capturing a messenger from Cao Cao and learning that Cao's army was running out of supplies, Yuan Shao thought it was a trap, and did nothing. With my 20 years of strategy game experience, I believe if Yuan Shao had split his forces into 2, one to attack Xuchang and rescue Emperor Xian, and the other to hold Cao Cao at Guandu, Yuan Shao could have won, and history would have been very different. It's so frustrating when the commander is incompetent. Some of Yuan Shao's subordinates defected and told Cao Cao the location of Shao's food storage. Without hesitation, Cao Cao sent his troops to burn it down. Yuan Shao, confused, split his army into 2. A small group to guard the food storage and a large one to attack Cao Cao's camp. This was the moment Cao Cao showed his tactical brilliance. He attacked the smaller group first, spread fake news to Yuan Shao, making him think the food storage was secure, and then pressured Shao's main forces into a sandwich position. In the end, Cao Cao captured and subdued one of Yuan Shao's top generals, Zhang Ka, while Yuan Shao's forces were crushed and forced to flee. Cao Cao didn't let up and chased them all the way back. Yuan Shao only escaped because Liu Bei attacked Xuchang. Cao Cao had to pull back, but didn't confront Liu Bei directly. Instead, he went around to attack Liu Bei's stronghold at Runan, forcing Liu Bei to retreat to Liu Biao's territory. With this winning streak, Cao Cao's dominance in the north seemed inevitable. Yuan Shao passed away 2 years later, leaving behind a territory torn apart by his sons fighting for succession. Cao Cao wiped out all 3 sons in one swift move. Interestingly, Cao Cao's son, Cao Pi, inherited his father's fascination with married women, and so he took Yuan Shao's daughter-in-law, Yuan Si's second wife, as his own. At the time, Cao Cao still hadn't decided on his successor, but it seemed like Cao Pi had earned points with this act, proving that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. However, while Cao Cao was rampaging, the other warlords were AFK. Liu Bei had once suggested to Liu Biao that they take advantage of this opportunity to attack Cao Cao, but Biao didn't listen, and now all he could do was lament how strong Cao Cao's army had become. Liu Bei, since fleeing to Liu Biao, had become quite famous, even being appointed as a protector for Biao's eldest son, Liu Qi. This made him disliked by the 2 siblings, Lady Sai and Sai Mao, who were concubines of Liu Biao. If Liu Bei wasn't removed, Lady Sai's son, Liu Zong, wouldn't be able to inherit the throne. So the Sai siblings pretended to invite Liu Bei to a banquet to deal with him. Liu Bei attended, but he quickly discovered their plot and managed to escape by making a daring leap off a cliff on horseback without dying. On his way back, Liu Bei met a mysterious recluse who introduced himself as Shui Jing. Shui Jing told him that what Liu Bei lacked was vision. There were plenty of tanks and fighters, but no one to call the team. In reality, Shui Jing was planting the seeds for Liu Bei to meet the 2 famous strategists, Zhuge Liang, Ngoa Long, and Pang Tong, Fuang So. He hinted that with one of these 2, Liu Bei could secure the empire. When Liu Bei returned to Xinye, he met someone familiar to Shui Jing, Zhuge Liang's acquaintance, a strategist named Tu Shi. Though a bit flawed, he was better than nothing, so Liu Bei decided to recruit him. To Liu Bei's surprise, Tu Shi was incredibly capable, and with just 2,000 soldiers, he helped Liu Bei defeat 30,000 of Cao Cao's forces. But Cao Cao was still Cao Cao. When he couldn't control his son, he captured his mother as a hostage. Tu Shi, out of filial piety, had no choice but to leave Liu Bei. However, he promised to work as a civil servant under Cao Cao and even provided Liu Bei with Zhuge Liang's address. Liu Bei, following the lead, traveled to Longzhong to find Zhuge Liang 3 times. The first time, there was no one at home. The second time, Zhuge Liang was away on a trip. The third time, he was asleep. Understanding the importance of first impressions, Liu Bei didn't call out, but waited for hours for Zhuge Liang to wake up. It turned out that Zhuge Liang was only half Liu Bei's age, just over 20, but already had a reputation for his wisdom, and was described as having a beard that reached his chest. After a conversation, Liu Bei was completely captivated. It was like a country bumpkin finally getting enlightened. From that humble straw hut, the plan to divide China into 3 kingdoms was born. Zhuge Liang suggested that by taking control of southwest China and aligning with Sun Quan in the Wu Kingdom, they could defeat Cao Cao. The first step for Liu Bei was to seize Jingzhou from Liu Biao. Although Liu Bei was reluctant to fight his own family, even distant relatives, he realized that the more important task was recruiting Zhuge Liang. So Liu Bei brought out his ultimate weapon, crying. At first, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei didn't trust Zhuge Liang much, but Zhuge Liang quickly got the chance to prove himself by defeating Cao Cao's 100,000-strong army at Jingzhou. With only 3,000 men and a bit of fire from a temple, Liang managed to burn down Cao Cao's supply depot and push his forces back. Even though Cao Cao had attacked Jingzhou multiple times, his real goal was actually Sun Quan's territory, in the Wu Kingdom, to punish Sun Quan for refusing to send his son to Cao Cao as a hostage. The challenge for Cao Cao was that his northern troops were only good at fighting on land. They were useless on water. That's why Cao Cao wanted to seize Jingzhou, which had many experienced sailors to strengthen his naval forces. At this point in the story, things were looking good for Cao Cao, as after Liu Biao's death, his second son, Liu Zong, took power and surrendered to Cao Cao, hoping to gain strength to challenge his elder brother Liu Qi and Liu Bei. With the opportunity now in hand, Cao Cao agreed to deal with Liu Bei. This time, he sent 500,000 troops under the command of Xu Chu and Cao Ren. Zhuge Liang then used his strategic brilliance to outsmart Cao Cao's forces. He led them into a city that wasn't even there and cooked up an ambush that wiped out 100,000 of Cao Cao's men. Meanwhile, Liu Bei fled to the capital of Jingzhou, Xiangyang, but was denied entry by Sai Mao. Since Liu Bei was popular among the people, many citizens of Xiangyang abandoned the city to follow him. Liu Bei then sent Guan Yu and Zhuge Liang to seek help from Liu Qi in Jiangxia, while he followed with the group of refugees. But they were moving too slowly, so Cao Cao's cavalry caught up with them and crushed them at Changban. This is where the spotlight shines on Zhang Fei and Zhao Yun in the story. Zhao Yun, riding solo, dashed back and forth through Cao Cao's army. It sounded suicidal, but somehow he managed to find Liu Bei's family. The first round, he found Liu Bei's second wife, Madame Gan. The second round, he found his first wife, Madame Mai, but she was gravely wounded. She handed Liu Shan, their son, over to Zhao Yun, then committed suicide to avoid being a burden. Liu Shan, by the way, is the son of Liu Bei and Madame Gan, though it's Madame Mi who is holding him here. Anyway, Zhao Yun found the young prince, but the escape route was still unclear. Fortunately, Zhang Fei stood firm on a bridge and waited for Zhao Yun to pass by. With one mighty roar, Zhang Fei scared Cao Cao's troops into retreating. In reality, if they had rushed him, Zhang Fei probably would have died. But Cao Cao, being paranoid, thought it was a trap and called off the pursuit. When Zhao Yun returned with Liu Shan, Liu Bei was thrilled, but in his excitement, he threw his son to the ground for almost getting his general killed. It was a mess, but the key players were acknowledged. On the other hand, Cao Cao, realizing that Zhang Fei was just a reckless man, ordered his troops to chase again. But by then, Guan Yu had returned with reinforcements, and Team Liu Bei successfully made their way to Liu Qi's territory. Cao Cao had, however, achieved his goal of cornering Liu Bei and also gained control of the Jingzhou Navy, which would help him in his future campaign against Sun Quan. Upon receiving a letter from Cao Cao asking for surrender, Sun Quan called his advisors together to discuss whether they should fight or submit. All of them unanimously shouted, "Surrender." Only Lu Su remained loyal, advising against surrender. He analyzed that the only ones who would benefit from submission would be the officials, while Sun Quan would gain nothing. In the worst-case scenario, they might end up eliminated, like Liu Zong and his family. To convince Sun Quan, Lu Su invited Zhuge Liang for counsel. Despite the Sun family's hatred for those who followed Liu Biao, since Liu Biao had killed Sun Jian, they needed all the support they could get. Moreover, Zhuge Liang had intelligence on Cao Cao's forces. The truth was that Zhuge Liang outplayed the entire Wu court in the argument. Sun Quan then asked Zhuge Liang how many troops Cao Cao had. Lu Su had warned him not to answer, fearing that Sun Quan, still young, might be intimidated. But Zhuge Liang boldly answered, even doubling the numbers and praising Cao Cao's military strength. However, the bottom line was that they had to fight for justice. Zhuge Liang's goal was to appeal to Sun Quan's ego, and in the end, he succeeded. The final obstacle was Zhou Yu, sworn brother of Sun Qi, who had been advising Sun Quan to surrender. But Zhuge Liang simply smiled and outplayed him by mentioning that Cao Cao liked married women, suggesting that all they needed to do was offer the beautiful Cao sisters from Jiangnan as tribute. The twist? The Cao sisters were the wives of Zhou Yu and the widows of Sun Ce. Zhou Yu, furious, stopped pretending to support surrender. In fact, Zhou Yu had already been planning to go to war with Cao Cao and was just testing Zhuge Liang. Thus, the Sun-Liu alliance was formed to face Cao Cao at the Battle of Red Cliffs. This battle was basically like a heist movie. The forces were so uneven that Sun Quan and Liu Bei wanted to go for an all-out win without dragging it out. So 90% of this battle was all about preparation. Even though they were allies, Zhou Yu still tried to get rid of Zhuge Liang because he feared that in the future Zhuge Liang would become more important than him. Zhou Yu ordered Zhuge Liang to gather 100,000 arrows in just 3 days without providing any materials. So Zhuge Liang covered a few boats with straw, sailed out towards Cao Cao's forces on a foggy day, and the Cao army, afraid of an ambush, didn't engage and just shot arrows from a distance. In the end, more than 100,000 arrows got stuck in the straw, and Zhuge Liang completed his task. Seeing this, Zhou Yu was over it and went back to his work, not wanting to waste any more time. The new worry was Sai Mao, an experienced admiral who was currently training Cao Cao's soldiers in swimming. So Zhou Yu set up a fake letter on a table and tricked a Cao Cao messenger into stealing it for Cao Cao. The letter claimed that Sai Mao was a double agent, and Cao Cao immediately dealt with him. Then Zhou Yu planted Huang Gai in Cao Cao's army, publicly humiliating and torturing him before sending him away to make Cao Cao believe the act. At this point, Pang Tong, a brilliant strategist comparable to Zhuge Liang, appeared. He pretended to join Cao Cao's forces and suggested that they tie the ships together so that Cao Cao's soldiers wouldn't get seasick. Everything was going smoothly until Zhou Yu fell ill from stress. His original plan was to use fire tactics, which required favorable winds, but the wind was going against him at the time, so all the preparation seemed like it was for nothing. Luckily, Zhuge Liang set up a ritual altar and performed a ceremony, and just like that, the wind changed direction. It's unclear whether it was magic or something else, but that's how the story goes. Seeing this, Zhou Yu wasn't happy and immediately sent someone to arrest Zhuge Liang, fearing that this sorcerer would be a serious threat if left alive. But by the time they got there, Zhao Yun had already taken Zhuge Liang away. Back to the battle, Zhou Yu's plan went off smoothly. Huang Gai set the ships on fire, and the ships that were tied together were quickly engulfed by flames, spreading from one to another with no way to stop it. Then, Zhou Yu's fleet launched a full-scale attack, crushing Cao Cao's forces. Cao Cao managed to escape with a small group of guards, although he was ambushed by Wu's troops 3 times on the way. Still, he somehow managed to get to a seemingly safe place. Cao Cao laughed, mocking Zhuge Liang and Zhou Yu for not preparing an ambush. But as soon as he finished laughing, Zhao Yun appeared and forced Cao Cao to flee again. Then, Zhang Fei blocked his way, and finally Guan Yu stood in his path. Cao Cao begged Guan Yu to show mercy, reminding him of their past connection. Fortunately for Cao Cao, Guan Yu spared him, and he survived this devastating defeat. According to La's conspiracy theory, Zhuge Liang had consulted divination and knew that Cao Cao's time wasn't up yet. So, the fact that Guan Yu spared Cao Cao was part of the plan, allowing Guan Yu to clear his debt with Cao Cao. Moreover, Cao Cao's heavy defeat created the opportunity for the southern warlords to grow stronger. Once Cao Cao's main forces retreated to the north, Jingzhou seemed like an easy target. Since Wu had already done most of the work in the Battle of Red Cliffs, Zhou Yu claimed the right to take Jingzhou. Zhuge Liang agreed, but Zhou Yu ended up failing, and with Cao Cao's forces weakened in Jingzhou, Liu Bei swooped in and seized the entire region. Zhou Yu was so trolled by Zhuge Liang that his old wound reopened and started bleeding. During this time, Liu Bei also recruited some new faces, like Huang Zhong, who would later become one of the 5 tiger generals of Shu Han, and Wei Yan, who had killed his previous lord due to differing opinions. This made Zhuge Liang distrust Wei Yan. Zhuge Liang's plan to divide China into 3 seemed to be progressing well. With Jingzhou under his control, the next targets were Yizhou, controlled by Liu Qiang, and Hanzhong, held by Zhang Lu. However, Sun Quan had long coveted Jingzhou, especially since Liu Biao had killed Sun Jian in the past. Liu Bei also needed Jingzhou as a fallback route for attacking Cao Cao, and because the region was wealthy enough to support the underdeveloped western mountainous areas. Therefore, this piece of land was the biggest obstacle for the Sun-Liu alliance. Initially, Zhou Yu tried to use diplomacy to claim Jingzhou, continuing the argument that Liu Bei owed the Sun family for his role in the Battle of Red Cliffs. However, Liu Bei responded that he only served Liu Qi, the legitimate ruler of Jingzhou. After Liu Qi's death, Liu Bei said he would wait until he found another territory. Frustrated with Liu Bei's slippery responses, Zhou Yu hatched a plan to assassinate him. At the time, Liu Bei's wife had just passed away, so Zhou Yu invited Liu Bei to Wu to marry Sun Quan's younger sister. Zhuge Liang saw through the plot immediately and spread the word about Liu Bei's planned marriage, ensuring that everyone knew, making Sun Quan so embarrassed that he backed off from the assassination plan. This led to Liu Bei gaining Sun Quan's sister as his wife instead. Seeing that the Sun-Liu alliance was having problems, Cao Cao added fuel to the fire by appointing Zhou Yu and a few others as official administrators of Jingzhou. This pushed Zhou Yu to the brink, and he gathered his forces to attack Liu Bei, claiming he was going to help him attack Liu Zhang so that Liu Bei could relocate. But once again, Zhuge Liang saw through it. Liu Bei blocked Zhou Yu's advance and declared that Liu Zhang was part of the royal family and that no one could attack him. This not only avoided the ambush, but also earned Liu Zhang's trust. Zhou Yu, repeatedly outplayed by Zhuge Liang, was humiliated to the point that he died from the stress. With Zhou Yu out of the picture, Liu Bei not only removed a powerful opponent, but also gained new forces, as Pang Tong also joined Liu Bei during this period. Meanwhile, up north, Cao Cao executed Ma Teng, an accomplice in the edict about the belt. Ma Teng's son, Ma Chao, then teamed up with Han Sui and the Qiang tribes to seek revenge against Cao Cao. Ma Chao chased Cao Cao and forced him to retreat 3 times, even making him cut off his beard and discard his cloak to disguise himself. Honestly, Cao Cao was lucky to escape death by a hair's breadth multiple times. In the end, Ma Chao couldn't keep up the fight and was defeated by Cao Cao. He had to flee to Hanzhong and seek refuge with Zhang Lu. The western region was somewhat isolated with many natural barriers, making it a kind of separate realm, where warlords didn't do much. Zhang Lu came from a family of Taoist priests, and he ran his own temple in Hanzhong. His main rival was Liu Zhang, but Liu Zhang was weak and incompetent, with no trust from his subordinates. Even though he had more land and more troops, Liu Zhang had to send Zhang Tong to ask Cao Cao for help. Zhang Tong didn't like Liu Zhang and secretly offered to give Cao Cao the map of the western regions. Cao Cao rejected the offer and treated Zhang Tong poorly. On his way back, Zhang Tong passed through Liu Bei's territory and was treated very well, so he gave the map to Liu Bei instead. Liu Bei then moved into Yizhou, claiming he was there to protect Liu Zhang from Zhang Lu, but he didn't want to kill Liu Zhang due to their distant family ties. The situation changed when Sun Quan sent a letter to his sister asking her to bring Liu Shan back as a hostage. Fortunately, Zhang Fei and Zhao Yun stopped her in time. Sun Quan then spread fake news about Liu Bei to Liu Zhang, which led Liu Zhang to stop sending supplies and eventually ambush Liu Bei. Liu Bei managed to escape, but Pang Tong was killed. Despite being trapped between Liu Zhang and Zhang Lu, Liu Bei, with Zhuge Liang's guidance, was able to defeat both of them. During this time, Ma Chao also defected from Zhang Lu and joined Liu Bei in this battle. However, things got complicated because Liu Bei had mobilized too many troops in the western regions. Sun Quan sent Lu Su and Lu Meng to attack Jingzhou, leaving only Guan Yu to defend it. When Liu Bei heard the news, he rushed back to provide reinforcements. Seeing this, Cao Cao seized the opportunity to invade the western regions and take Hanzhong from Zhang Lu, planning to push further into Yizhou to trap Liu Bei. But Zhuge Liang managed to broker an agreement with Sun Quan to redistribute Jingzhou, tricking the Sun family into attacking He Fei to distract Cao Cao's forces. With that, Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang returned to the western regions to defeat Cao Cao in Hanzhong. At this point, Cao Cao had been promoted to the title of King of Wei, which made him just one rank below the emperor. So, when Liu Bei took Hanzhong, he declared himself King of Hanzhong as well. This move had significant symbolic meaning because Hanzhong was the first land Liu Bang, the founding emperor of the Han dynasty, had taken. Essentially, Liu Bei was following in his ancestors' footsteps to solidify his legitimacy. The 5 Tiger generals were officially appointed, including Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, Ma Chao, and Huang Zhong. However, Guan Yu wasn't happy because he was now on par with the older Huang Zhong, even though Guan Yu himself was already 60 years old. Cao Cao, now in power, suggested to Sun Quan that they collaborate to take Jingzhou. Sun Quan hesitated and asked if Guan Yu would be willing to marry his daughter to his son. Guan Yu, growing more arrogant with age, replied that the child of a tiger would never marry the child of a dog. This insult pushed the alliance between Cao Cao and Sun Quan forward, and Guan Yu sealed his own fate. However, he did manage to have a brief moment of triumph. Following Zhuge Liang's advice, Guan Yu led an army to attack Cao Cao's forces, killing several important generals and severely damaging their morale. Guan Yu was clearly dominating until Sun Quan appointed a strategist named Lu Xun to lead the forces. Lu Xun, a little-known figure, wasn't even on Guan Yu's radar, and Guan Yu underestimated him. This allowed Lu Meng to seize some of the cities in Jingzhou. Lu Meng was much more skilled than Guan Yu and quickly won the trust of the local population. This marked the beginning of Guan Yu's downfall. With a shortage of food and many soldiers deserting, Guan Yu asked for help from Liu Bei's adopted son, Liu Feng, but was refused. Guan Yu tried to retreat to Liu Bei's stronghold in the west, but was captured by Sun Quan's forces and executed. His horse, Red Hair, died a few days later from refusing to eat. Then came a series of fantastical events like Guan Yu's ghost haunting Lu Meng to death and blood flowing from the trees. After executing Guan Yu, Sun Quan surrendered to Cao Cao for protection against Liu Bei. Cao Cao was fine with this, but he didn't want to get too involved. When Sun Quan sent Guan Yu's head to him, Cao Cao staged a very elaborate funeral. But not long after, Cao Cao himself followed his old friend to the grave due to a brain tumor. When Cao Cao's son, Cao Pi, ascended the throne, he deposed and persecuted the Han emperor, declaring himself emperor and founding the Wei dynasty. Seeing this, Liu Bei proclaimed himself the Emperor of Han, based in Shu, which is why it is commonly called Shu Han. As emperor, Liu Bei's first order was to attack Wu. Liu Bei was letting personal grudges take precedence over the duty of punishing the usurper. This was not a wise move for a ruler, and in reality it marked the beginning of a series of tragedies. Zhuge Liang couldn't stop him, as Zhang Fei constantly provoked him. Ironically, Zhang Fei became the first victim of this war. Before even leaving for battle, he was killed by his subordinates due to his mistreatment of the soldiers. The culprit fled to Wu, which further enraged Liu Bei. Liu Bei took command himself, bringing along his generals Guan Xing, Zhang Bao, and the sons of Guan Yu and Zhang Fei, with an army of 700,000, seemingly unstoppable. At this time, Wu's forces were still led by Lu Xun. Lu Xun's strategy was to delay and buy time until summer. Liu Bei, too eager, moved his camp to an area with more shade, unaware that the trees were highly flammable. By the time Zhuge Liang learned of it, it was too late. Lu Xun set fire to the forest, decimating almost all of Liu Bei's army. Zhuge Liang managed to arrive just in time to hold off Lu Xun and save Liu Bei. However, Lu Xun was not interested in pursuing Liu Bei because Cao Wei had switched sides, attacking instead of assisting the Sun family. As a result, Sun Quan decided to break away and establish his own Wu dynasty. At this point, Liu Bei was too ill to move, having lost 2 brothers and failed to exact his revenge. He no longer had the will to live. The dream of restoring the Han dynasty was passed on to Zhuge Liang. Liu Bei told him that if Liu Shan was worthy, he should serve him. If not, Zhuge Liang could usurp the throne himself. After saying this, Liu Bei passed away, meeting with his 2 brothers in the afterlife. Liu Bei's last words to Zhuge Liang were, "By the way, don't trust Ma Su." Zhuge Liang was puzzled but decided not to dwell on it, as he had much larger problems at hand. The 5 enemy armies were closing in on Shu Han, all masterminded by Sima Yi, the final and greatest rival of Zhuge Liang. And that will be the focus of the next episode, the final chapter of this mini-series.